Okay, well, let's get started. This morning, as we, in lieu of like an inspiration, Archie has been out being very busy in the world of Healdsburg. Do you want to tell us what we're going to do next, Archie?
Well, we're going to show you some pictures of Rotarians' houses that have been properly decorated for Christmas. Let's see here. Okay. It means share screen. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, who can guess whose house that is?
Terry's.
That's Terry.
That's right. Cool. Here's another one. Can you guess whose house that is? It's up on the hill. He's got kids.
Oh, that has to be Will Seppi.
There, you got it. Hey, right on.
Woo!
And whose place of business is this?
That Andy's?
No.
No.
Philippe.
Philippe, he's on leave right now. And can you guess whose house that is?
Andy's.
Andy Escoval. And there's his office. He's even got a wreath on the door.
And a Christmas tree.
And a Christmas tree. Cool. And then here's my house, but
Wow.
Cool.
Nice job, Archie.
and then I forget whose house this is, but I know where it is. It's 446.
446 what?
Oh, I think this is who are the good doctors that are in the club?
Mark.
Mark
I think it's Mark's house,
Dan.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then whose house is this?
Ah.
This is our president's, what do you call this?
That's Richard's doghouse.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that's what I've got to show you. Oh no, there's one more. And who knows whose house this is?
Fred's.
Fred's. You got it. So that's what I've been doing lately is just running around looking for Rotarians' homes that have been decorated. So
You must have be the reason why our dog was growling late one night.
I don't think I was there that late. If it's late at night, I'm probably not out.
Well, I mean, in the evening.
Yes, it might have been, but I took it from the street. I didn't come up in your driveway.
She's smart. She probably thought you were the UPS man bringing presents. Actually, that's our well house where we finally have hidden our ugly water treatment containers. And Richard took the siding from our house when we tore it down and flipped it over to find all heart redwood. Mm-hmm. And so he paneled it with that. And those windows are from our neighbors when they tore down their house. So reuse and recycle.
And then I'm going to get rid of this.
Thanks, Archie.
Oh, you're welcome. Did you want me to talk about the after meeting chat box?
Yeah, that would be great. That's also inspirational.
One of the things that I suggested and they thought it'd be a good idea is when the meeting's over, Lance is just going to put us randomly into chat boxes so we can visit. And we do it at church, and it's been very, very helpful to my wife and I. And so I thought it might be a good thing for our club. Anyway, that's what he's going to do today, and we'll see if it works.
So Lance, how are you going to move around the names? I'm not familiar with how the chat boxes work.
So they're called breakout rooms. And the way it works is I pick a number of rooms based on the number of people. So there'll be a handful in each. And it will randomly assign everyone to one of those separate rooms. So you'll be in a little mini private Zoom with just those people.
And you can carry on a conversation.
Yeah, so it becomes less crosstalk. Exactly.
So this opportunity will give us another opportunity to learn how to use these features of Zoom. And hopefully we'll be proficient by next August, when it's time to walk away from this Zoom format. And Rotary, this Rotary year is Rotary opens opportunities. See how this fits into the international theme? I'm so proud of you guys coming up with these ideas. Thank you. So moving along, Lance, how is the Choices effort going?
So I've got a fair number of volunteers who've agreed to step up, and right now I've reached out to the principal and have not heard back from them, but hopefully we'll get some engagement and interest. And Choices is gone all virtual, so they've got a bunch of virtual trainings coming up. So as soon as I kind of know that we're definitely on and that the principal is engaged, I'll put out some of the dates so all the volunteers can go sign up for that and get the new training. It's shorter than it was. It's only going to be 1 day, 45 minutes. But we'll still probably do it, one per period. And I haven't seen it either, so I actually don't know what it looks like yet.
Who's the principal at the junior high?
Oh, I've forgotten his name. I dropped him a note, but I have not worked with him before, so I've got to.
Sometimes if they don't get back right away, pounding on Chris Vandenheuvel is helpful. So
yeah, I was going to escalate. I was going to, it's right around the holidays. I was going to give him a little time to get back to me, but if I didn't hear from him, Chris Miller is the current junior high principal, but also secretaries are very useful. So I found reaching out to the front office to pester them was frequently effective before.
They are the gatekeepers. Secretaries and the janitors. You can get anything done knowing those people at the schools.
It's something I learned in high school and in college that, yeah, they were the secret to unlocking all things if you were really good friends with the secretaries.
Yeah, my kids used to be really upset with my involvement at the school because I obviously embarrassed them just by being there. But I let them know when they needed to get into the junior high on a weekend, I got the keys from the principal. So
I knew the secretary well enough that she and her husband took me to see the Grateful Dead.
Well,
I don't know how they thought that was a good idea, but
look how you turned out. My God.
I didn't rat them.
Did you enjoy it?
Sure.
Dungeons and Dragons. That's what happened. All right. So thank you for that update. Was there a question? We also had a preliminary 4th of July meeting last night. And I'm getting feedback on my computer here. Do you want to just touch on that real fast, Lance?
Sure, yeah. So I'm also, I guess, was voluntold that the past president chairs the 4th of July each year. So I thought we'd kick things off. So we had a Zoom meeting last night just to start the process of thinking through what that was going to look like. lot of really interesting ideas came out. We're assuming that the full-blown several thousand people on the plaza all packed in together, eating finger food was probably not going to be on, but hopefully we'll be in a more open situation than we are now, right? There should be a lot of vaccination having happened. So what we're doing is planning a potentially all virtual event, and Jay and everyone kicked in a lot of great ideas around that, with a number of more sort of physically present options that we can layer onto that, so that we can take advantage of the degree of openness that exists and that we feel comfortable with, but have the planning in place to still deliver a really cool experience if it has to be all the way virtual. And so we're starting to reach out to the city and see what they're doing and beginning that conversation, because ideally we want to be having this roll well in advance. Also looking at potentially trying to get some sponsorship this time and really highlighting. We had some ideas on how to highlight some of the local companies in this so that they get video time and really get featured, hopefully in a way that's much more effective than just their name on a banner, and would allow us to get back to generating some revenue. I mean, we know a lot of small businesses have been really deeply impacted by this, but many haven't. And so hopefully they've not been tapped out, and we can do some fundraising for scholarships and everything else we do.
Thank you. It was fun getting those ideas going, because we will hopefully have enough time to implement them. So let's see here. So has anyone had a chance to go to the downtown lighting project yet? Walk through town? Guys, it's going to rain tomorrow. You got to get out there. It's really beautiful. You can do it at night. And
how long's going to be up?
I think till mid-January. So it's not like you're running out of time yet.
Okay.
And business bingo. Has anyone picked up one of those bingo cards? Crickets. Go by Healdsburg running. You did?
Yeah. I picked mine up at Cousteau what was I in Cousteau for? I remember I had to buy a gift for somebody. Yes. So I've got it. I think I have it all pretty well checked off, because I do like to buy sweets and go out to dinner and things like that. And I was able to do some of those before we shut down.
Nice. Lance pointed out that it's difficult for people like him to fill up at your local gas station. Lance and Dr. Doug, because they have hybrids. So
Chris
you have to find another row to work on. And they could probably have to put some X's in there, because we can't dine out. And that's one of the boxes too. So anyway, it's cute, and it shows people that we're trying to help our town. So I would also like to just look at the calendar real fast, see if I can share my screen. I sent it out to everybody. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. What I worked on earlier in the year was this calendar to look ahead, just so we would be hopefully on top of these projects, because we do have a lot of things kind of squeezed into the new year. Now, obviously, SNAP is not happening because of COVID. So that one's checked off, but Will did say he was going to work on the anniversary dinner. He's not here today, but I will check with him to see, if there is a way we can, convene, be it virtually or somewhere. We definitely need to celebrate. I think it's 12 years, right? No, 09 from 11 years. 21. I can't count. 12.
Well, sounds like 12.
See how weak our brains are getting? choices. Okay, Lance, like he just reported on that. So Lance is stepping in to help Mark with that. So that's fabulous. Wonder League, Larry, do you and Sean have any, you start talking about that?
We usually start talking about it right after the first of the year, so we have not. But we're kind of at the mercy of the city, whether we can do anything like that. So we need to consult with them. And also, Wonder League's kind of like SNAP. I mean, the constituency has some vulnerabilities, so we'll have to get the conversation going.
Okay. Yeah, so much is on hold still. So, okay, Mark did confirm that he will be organizing the teacher appreciation breakfast, and I will have more information from him in early January on that. And Larry, is Larry on the call? Larry Orr here today? Okay, well, I will be reaching out to him to find out where things are with the scholarship. Thank you to one of our beloved members. We have a new scholarship to offer the high school that is based in art. So that should be a very interesting scholarship to award. The debunking, we don't need to talk about that. The 4th of July, we talked a little about that. And we're still, the bike tour has not really moved along at all. We're kind of stuck right now. So hopefully we will get something going, figure out what to do. Because by late July, hopefully we will be able to convene. So I just wanted to take a look at the calendar ahead and let y'all know what's coming up. So Archie, I don't know if you were planning to do a craft talk today. Were you? You're on mute.
Can't hear you, Archie.
Mute unmute.
I've thought about it, and I have some ideas, but I don't have anything prepared formally. If you want to watch somebody ad lib a talk, I'm more than happy to go ahead and put one together.
Well, I could move you to another date. I kind of leaned on you for some other things today, so.
I'm open either way.
Well, if you have 5 minutes.
Let's try for 3. One of the things I thought about is this time of year, we talk about Christmas, and I don't have the tree to show you, but my wife, this is a very important time of year for her, and she usually decorates the house fully, and then we have people with children over, and they just have a lot of fun. This year, since we can't have that, she just could not get in the spirit to decorate the house. But when she does decorate the tree is all cats and dogs. And some of the ornaments are homemade, and many of them are pictures of our former animals that she remembers every year when she puts them up. And that's very special to her, and so it's special to me. So, but we have, she makes these little ornaments, and we do it for other people too. When they lose an animal, we will get a picture for them and make the ornament for them to put up every year and remember that animal. Because to her, the animals are very much like your kids. Those of you who have kids, they're just really important to her. So, and then she took flower decorating classes, and the lady taught her how to decorate the house. Unfortunately, the lady is really an expert on decorating retail, and she doesn't worry about anything about function. All she worries about is making it look pretty. And so sometimes the decorations get in my way, but I am able to tolerate it because it's for a good cause. So that kind of tells you in a nutshell what we do around here for Christmas, other than put lights on the house.
Well,
So Archie,
Yeah.
what was the things that you did in Florida as a kid that you got in trouble for?
We don't have enough time this year to tell you that.
Well, just pick a colorful one and share with us.
A friend of mine named Joe Brown and we had an old abandoned golf course that we used to play at, and they had in Florida, in Miami, there's not a lot of hills, but this had a slope that went over the top, and then there was kind of a stream down below that was dried up. So we dug a cave into that, and then we dug a cave up, and so then we covered that with brush so that nobody would know where a cave was. And Ronnie Mobley was over there, and he was chasing us around, threatening to do harmful things to us. And Joe Brown ran over and jumped the hole, and Ronnie Mobley fell right into the middle of it and came straight down about 12 feet, no, maybe 8 feet. Anyway, it didn't hurt him at all. Ronnie Mobley was the resident wise ass. I learned a little bit from him. So anyway, later on that evening, his mother is at the door talking to my dad about the evil thing that we did to her kid. If she only knew what her kid did to us. But later on, I went to work for Sears, and she gave me a good recommendation. So I don't think she held it against me for too long.
Thank you.
well, I also have a question. I know that Archie is learning to play the drums, and I'm interested to know what songs you play the drums to. Like, how do you do it? Do you have headphones on? You driving Sue crazy?
Well, it depends on whether she's home or not. If she's not home, I don't have headphones on. If she's gone, I'm going to play the music loud. The one that I just finished working on is A Bad Moon Rising, and that's I love that song because you can just get into the beat and you can stay with it the whole time because it's just got such a good rhythm to it. And but there's about there's probably a dozen songs that I've learned to play at this point. Some of them are You Can Leave Your Hat On.
I love that song.
A lot of them are like that, and Helter Skelter. They're just you're trying to develop different talents on the drum, and so my music teacher picks things that I don't know how to do, and I have to learn that song, and in the process, I learn a new technique. So, but the rule is I can't play before 9 o'clock, and I can't play after 9 o'clock. The drums are in the living room now, right beside my desk. And in fact, I guess, can you see them over there?
Yeah.
So, and
9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
It's got to be. It can't be before 9. It can't be after 9. And I don't usually play. She's usually upstairs in her sewing room, or she's gone somewhere, and that's when I work on my music because I really don't want to disturb her if I can avoid it. I'm working on getting a pair of electronic drums so I can just put the headsets on and play any time of day or night.
Fun.
But one neighbor told me the other day, she said, it used to be a lot harder to listen to you practice.
Oh, that's a very nice compliment. So, do you have a favorite drummer?
There's several of them. My favorites are the women. The women are coming on strong. And I think it's part of the women's movement because the drummer's always been considered kind of the leader of the band, even though surreptitiously. And a lot of the women are just doing excellent work. And I just enjoy listening to them play. But people, I think the drummer works harder than any other guy in the band. And yet, you know, they say that we're all hard-headed, stubborn people to live with. And they're probably right. But the fact is, the drummer, if he doesn't like or she doesn't like something about the music, it's going to affect everybody in the drum. If the guy's playing the guitar doesn't like something about the music and he changes a note, it's not a big deal. So I think that's part of the reason we have that reputation. But
yeah, no, that's interesting. Have you ever heard of a drummer named Jeff Porcaro?
Yes, I have. Yes.
So he went to high school with me and my brothers and my best friend, and he and my best friend were sweeties for several years. And he was the drummer in the Sonny and Cher show, and went on to be the drummer for the Boz Scaggs Silk Degrees album, and he played with Steely Dan. So I love his drumming because he has set that tone for a lot of that music.
Yes, and then, I mean, Dave Brubeck was probably one of the best. He was, in one of the documentaries, he was complaining about a guy being a little bit off on his 32nd note. And if you stop and think about how short a time a 32nd note is, and yet he would hear it every time because this guy was just a little off.
Get that down. I hope we get a concert before the end of my term.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, thank you for the ad lib. It's always fun to hear from our members. And Archie, just talking about Christmas trees, I was going to share a screen real fast again. I can get back to the Zoom. What I did yesterday with two of my 3 grandchildren here. I'm living dangerously. We went to the National Mall and saw the National Christmas Tree, which is 82 feet tall, from Colorado. And the Coloradans decorate this tree every year because it came from there. So it's kind of, I don't know if you can see any of the decorations, but behind me, you can see the Capitol, and they are actually erecting the inauguration podium. So that was kind of exciting to get to witness that. Anyway, I'm stopping sharing. Thank you, everybody. So, recognitions. I don't see Sean on this call. He keeps slipping by with his birthday. So we'll have to catch him. But Doug Pyle, you have a birthday coming up. We're going to miss the meeting that would be closest to it. You're on mute, sir.
Okay, I guess I do have a birthday coming up. I guess I'm happy to admit it. The alternative is not quite anything to be terribly happy about.
How's your foot?
Quarter century. So I will probably be celebrating at home. My kids will obviously probably come by or say hi to me. They've been doing that, trying to stay as much isolated as possible. But I will donate $50 to the Rotary Foundation.
Wow, thanks, Doug.
They'll celebrate getting to 75. And my dog just left on that.
How is your foot doing?
Oh, my foot is healing up. It's a slow process, but we're making good headway. And hopefully by the second week in January, I'll be back to doing pretty much normal things.
Well, good. Glad to see you made it through it.
It's been a bit of an ordeal, but pardon?
There's a little delay going on here in the audio.
Yeah.
Did somebody have a question for Doug? Okay, well, thank you, Doug. I'm glad you're looking chipper with your
Thank
hat.
you. Thank you.
I appreciate your decoration. And now Bert and Jen have a big wedding anniversary on the 30th as well. They're not here. Bert has been traveling a lot despite COVID warnings. I think they're pushing 20 years, but anyway, we'll circle back with good old Bert soon. Bert, and Will is not here. We're going to get him on that North Bay Business Journal article yet. Okay, quickly, I just wanted to update you on 2 more of the Drew Esquivel scholars. You know what? I don't have them up. So I was not prepared. I'm tired. Jet lag. Have you ever had really bad jet lag? It takes like 3 days, 4 days to get over it. And it's because of age. The older you get, the worse it is. And I am finally climbing out of it. So I apologize for not having that up. What we thought we would do today, since we hadn't scheduled a guest speaker for this date, because in my original calendar planning, was hoping to have a social on the 23rd instead of a meeting. So sadly, we can't socialize. But happily, we haven't heard from Lance in quite a while, which is always an interesting topic based on Lance's skullduggery and cyber world. I've always missed the really unique ones. I think the last one I heard was on how to be safe in your technological use, which coincidentally ties into the topic we've decided to talk about today, right?
Oh, I was actually not sure what topic we were going to do today, so I've.
You didn't get my email about the cyber?
Oh, I did not, but that's all right. I'm not sure why I didn't see that, but
you accused me of being drunk in one of my emails to you about why I thought the cyber aspect and the current hacking of our government was.
All right. I was going to actually start there, and then maybe I'll since we've got some time, I'll segue into some craft talk as well. So and also some of the security advice, right? So I always, whenever I do my little security talk, I'm always ranting about a couple of common things, as you know, right? I'm always saying, patch your computers, because that's how everyone gets broken into, is they haven't just installed the updates on all the software, because usually most of the hacks are using well-known vulnerabilities. You want to have backups. During the meeting last night, Larry Orr was talking about having gotten hit with a ransomware attack, and it would have wiped out all of his files if he didn't have backups of his computer on an external hard drive. And so he was able to recover from that. And ideally, a couple of backups, right? So the nice external hard drive is great unless your house burns down in a big fire, in which case you also want to have a backup to the cloud. Things like Dropbox and Google Drive and the Microsoft OneDrive and iCloud are great. And I use all of those as sort of a backup, more for moving files around, but also as a backup. But do have a cloud backup so that you've got something if things go worst case. I use a system called Backblaze. But there's a bunch of fairly low cost online things, which is back up your entire computer and, automatically upload all the updates. And so if something appalling happens, you don't lose all the pictures of your grandkids and the other things that you care about. And the last, of course, is I always rant about passwords and how you should be using good passwords, and they should be unique so that you're not using the same password on multiple websites. And they should not be obvious and easy to guess. And and since that's almost impossible to do without help, you should use a password vault. And I use a password vault called 1Password, the number 1 password. But again, there are many companies that make these. They allow you to sync passwords between your devices. If you've got multiple computers, you've got an iPad, you've got an iPhone, it makes sure you've got those impossible to remember passwords everywhere. And that is particularly relevant to this most recent mega breach that they think the Russians did against the government and most of the national security community, the DoD, and a huge number of other large Fortune 500 companies. And the reason that all of these companies got hit at once is the attack actually came in through a company called SolarWinds. And this is a monitoring company. So part of security, this is in fact a security company, part of the security process that they were doing is you want to be able to see what's going on in your network, right? You want to be able to see, oh, there's something unusual going on, or someone's logging into a system from some other computer that they shouldn't. You really want to be able to get a good overview of everything going on. SolarWinds provides a tool like that. So you install their software and their devices all over your network, and then it watches what's going on and gives you all that kind of data. And of course, because these things need new features and occasionally they need to be patched themselves because maybe there's vulnerabilities, they automatically update themselves from SolarWinds' central computer. So someone broke into SolarWinds' central updating computer and installed malware in the SolarWinds client software that then got pushed out to all of their customers in all of these. And they provide monitoring for like 450 of the Fortune 500. You know, it's that kind of level of penetration. They're really a big company. And so now the bad guys had their software running on these devices in every single network, being able to monitor what's going on and send that back or potentially launch other attacks, you know, whatever the bad guy wanted to do. So what does this have to do with passwords? So that server, the one that pushes the software out into the hearts of every network in all of these companies and all of these government institutions, had the password SolarWinds123. SolarWinds is the name of the company. This is a very, very bad password, easily guessed, and that's how they broke in. Nothing sophisticated, no, master hacker tools. They guessed an obvious password on the most critical system in the entire network. This is a huge embarrassment and is costing this company a lot of money. I think their stock price has dropped 20%. But it just shows it's not just you and me and ordinary people who are vulnerable to this. Fortunately, once they caught it, they were able to use the same update system to push out updates to hopefully repair all of these hacked systems. But it actually is probably going to be months before we know whether they've been able to clean it up. Because the first thing you do as a hacker when you get access to a system is you then entrench, right? You dig in, you install new copies of things. You take advantage of where you are to try to give you a new backdoor to get in and to make sure that the malware that you've installed survives reboots and things like that. So there's probably going to be a very long process of trying to regain confidence in the security of these systems. Because some of these things can lie silent for a long time. And if they're using new attacks that aren't well known or novel malware, and if this was a Russian attack, that's pretty likely, it's not easy to know if a system still has some kind of malware or hacker tools or enemy presence on it. The easiest thing to do is to, in fact, completely reinstall everything on the system, reflash everything, single piece of storage on the device, and build it up. But re-imaging every single computer in every single corporation is sort of an impossible task, and that's ridiculously high labor. So unlikely to see that, but just goes to show everyone does stupid things, but don't use bad passwords. So would you like me to, I've done some thinking about sort of a craft talk. I haven't done one of those in a long time. Would you like me to segue into that or? Okay.
Wait, before you do that, does anyone have any questions about the cyber thing? I also heard that Trump has his was MAGA 2020 for his Twitter account.
He's been hacked twice, I believe, for his Twitter account. And yeah, one of them was MAGA 2020 and one of them was something similarly obvious. And again, right, no fancy hacking. The security guy just guessed it. In this case, he didn't do anything bad. He just sort of reported it to the press that Trump was being stupid with security. But yeah. Well,
it was pretty interesting how you're hammering on us years ago about passwords comes down to this situation in our country. It couldn't be more obvious.
Yeah, and it is funny though. It's almost always the basics that get people. There's all sorts of fancy things. A lot of companies spend a lot of money selling really sophisticated tools, but 99 out of 100 times, the reason people get hacked is really simple stuff. There's some, for some reason they couldn't update some server in the middle of their infrastructure because it runs software that only runs on a 10-year-old version of Windows. So they've got a 10-year-old version of Windows in there. And then someone hacks that and then infiltrates the rest of the network from there. It's those kind of things that
okay, well,
that get people all the time. Well, I mean, but it's funny.
Well taken. Archie has a question.
Surprisingly well, right? We all have locks on our doors, despite the fact that lock picking is a relatively easy task. I learned lock picking some years ago. Just as a hobby. And I know people who are really good at it, but I actually did find a useful purpose for it when I was doing a whole lot of work in one of the data centers I was in at one time. And we needed to have monitors and a bunch of other equipment that was a big pain to haul in and out of the data center every day. And I noticed that the cabinet next to mine was empty. And so I picked the lock and just put the monitor in there. And so each day I'd come in, pick the lock, take the monitor out, do my work, pick the lock, put the monitor back and leave. And we did that for about a week, which didn't say good things about the sort of monitoring of the data center and their oversight on us, but it saved me a lot of backbreaking labor.
Archie has a question.
Archie.
Lance, I'm just wondering, I wonder if we've gotten too open to or too lazy to turn off our machines from once in a while and just let them lie still and then crank them back up when we need them. And I have an idea that would kind of help the security, but I don't know.
It might help with some kinds of attacks. A lot of these are the infiltration happens when they get a human to do something, right? They get you to click on the right thing, the wrong thing, or install some software or do something else. Usually, like your home computer isn't getting attacked when you're not there. You're usually part of the attack on your personal computer. And then the other things like Twitter, these others, there's services that are up 24/7, right? So Twitter never turns off and SolarWinds never turns off and really can't, right? Because they're publicly available services. And those are the ones that are getting the more sophisticated attacks all the time. I do think though, turning off your computer saves electricity and rebooting it on a sort of semi-regular basis just makes it happier. The computers get cruft the longer they run, right? The state becomes less well-known and software is not perfect. So when you do a reboot, it kind of gets everything back to a known functional state. And it's just worth doing, if not every day, at least every week. You'll just find you'll have a happier and healthier computer. We were joking about, was it yesterday? About turning it off and turning it on again, right? Diane's computer's camera wasn't working. And that's just always the first piece of tech support, right? Is turn it off and turn it on, because it shouldn't help, but almost always does.
Can I just make one more comment relative to your user you need to be using your computer to get hacked. I was trying to connect my computer with our printer and the Bluetooth component, and I went online to Brother printers, and suddenly this little chat box opens up and it says, "Tell us what's going on." And I thought it was the Brother company. It turns out it was not. It was some goofball who actually got into my computer and was now typing me a message in the DOS or OneNote or whatever that thing is. And suddenly it starts telling me how much money I should send him to fix all these different things in my computer. And all of a sudden I said, I think this conversation's over. And I turned him off, and I immediately went over to Scott Schultz's Fusion Technology and had them go through my computer to get rid of this guy. That blew my mind. It was like total violation.
It is, and they're good. They do a really good job of convincing you that you should do this, right? And that it's going to be helpful and it looks right. And the better ones are pretty professional. A lot of them aren't. One of the most famous hackers in the world is Kevin Mitnick. He spent a few years in jail and now has a very lucrative consulting business for security, but did a lot of hacking. And I saw him speak at a security conference, and he talked about one of his most successful strategies. And it was sort of like what you saw. He said he would start randomly calling into the department that he wanted to infiltrate in some company, where he wanted to hack a computer. And he would call them up until someone answered. And when someone answered, he would say he was Bob from tech support, and he heard that they were having trouble with their computer and he wanted to see if he could resolve it for them. Almost everyone is having trouble with their computer, so most of the time they'd say yes. His next step, and this was brilliant, is he would go in and actually solve their problem. Then, having established trust and reciprocity, he would ask them to do something for him because he was doing some maintenance on the systems or whatever, and they would all be more than happy to install or click on or anything he asked for at that point, and he would just own them. And I thought, that's understanding human nature and psychology. This is a clever guy, maybe not for the best purposes, but and it's why it's so hard. It's like the number one attack against businesses from a security point of view isn't typically hacking. The biggest one is what's called business email compromise. And it's where, and this is the thing that really costs people the big bucks, someone will research you and work out, like if you've got a small company, who your assistant is, who your bookkeeper is, who your accountant is. And they will forge an email from you to the accountant instructing them to wire a whole bunch of money to someone, themselves, of course. And this works wonderfully because when the bank calls back to confirm that this wire was legitimate, they call the bookkeeper and the bookkeeper says yes. And the money's gone. Really easy. And forging emails in a pretty plausible way is pretty easy. And these people have gotten good with the stories. So it's those kind of things. They find the chink through the human element to get in and then do whatever malfeasance they wish to engage in.
I had a winery customer when I was in banking that had that happen to them. And they successfully wired $50,000 to a bank in New York. And the bank in New York couldn't connect the recipient with any real company or person. So they kicked it back to us. And it was so authentic.
That's lucky.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. So I was guessing that maybe they were just testing the waters to see if they could get away with it. But anyway, it's real.
Oh yeah, real common problem. And so that, yeah, in terms of money, it's that and then ransomware are probably the one and two expenses that people have.
Lance,
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been dealing with carriers and escrows are that escrow instructions are being hijacked by offshore individuals. So for example, You and your wife sell a piece of property. You know, you're through an escrow company. You have your own agent. Somebody else has one for the buyer. And you're expecting 800 grand coming to you, and poof, it's electronically transferred. And you don't see it. You don't see it, and you want to know, it's gone. I mean, we just got another assignment for 800 grand, another one for 1.2 million. And there's really not much an escrow company can do. And we've done like risk management discussions where you're supposed to call up the client. You're supposed to speak to them. Then you're supposed to get certain code words for relaying. And then you call up, I want to know where this money's to be sent. And this is the actual client. They are supposed to email you where they want it to go on their own email. And then you confirm it with archaically with a fax. They don't do it. You know, and personally, I don't like electronic transfers because of this. I mean, it's a lot easier to overnight track in a cashier's check.
Yeah.
But I mean, and there's not much that the escrow company can do to defend something like that.
It is, you're right. I mean, it's a similar kind of attack, right? They're probably just sending an extra email going, oh, hey, you know, I sent you the wrong account number. You should actually use this one. Or, you know, they'll infiltrate the, take over someone's email account and then send these out. Yeah, very similar kind of attack. Yeah, my money management company does, in fact, anytime I want to make a change or transfer money, someone who knows me personally gets on the phone and confirms that I, in fact, did ask for that. And yeah, that's effective, but doesn't scale well, you know, and is really labor intensive. So.
Yeah, but versus losing 800 grand for another 5 minutes.
I like the fact that they do it, but, you know, I don't think Bank of America is ever going to do that for all of their customers, or PayPal or something like that.
Who's on the hook for that, Edward? Is it just gone?
The escrow company, they're your fiduciary. They're supposed to ensure I did everything I wanted. I have my own real estate agent. I'm working with my escrow company. Usually it turns out that one of the brokerage's accounts are infiltrated, and then they look and see who's doing an escrow, and then they glob onto that. But, you know, to prove that is pretty hard. It's the escrow that has the last say.
Well,
and the worst part is the insurance policies don't pay out on those. There's specific exclusions that I drafted on that, you know, for insurance policies. So if you're an escrow company, you're screwed.
Oh.
Yeah, they know that those are the expensive things to pay on, so they always try to rule out all the expensive common claims that are going to hit them.
Well, thanks, Edward. Lance, do you want to segue into a little craft talk? And
sure. What do I have, like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was born in San Diego to a couple of college professors. So my father was a professor of physics. My mother was a professor of sociology. So got, you know, kind of a balanced and very academic upbringing. And that was my intent from a very young age. From about probably 6, I would tell everyone that I was going to be a physicist. I was going to be a professor, teach physics, do research. That was my intent. I went to a math, science, computer high school. And so I learned programming there. I learned, you know, did physics, took calculus, all that stuff. But I had one of the best summer jobs that prepared me in ways that I absolutely didn't appreciate at all. At the time, I thought it was just a great way to make money that wasn't as unpleasant as flipping burgers or something like that. But I got a job at our local science center. So it was the Reuben H. Fleet Space Theater and Science Center, which is kind of like the Exploratorium in San Diego. It's modeled on the Exploratorium. And my job was what they called a facilitator. And that meant I was to go out onto that exhibit floor and help people understand the exhibits that they were interacting with and understand the science. And so basically I had to wander around and talk to people, assess their understanding of the thing they were interacting with, and then communicate with them at the appropriate level to sort of help them get more out of their experience. And we also did demonstrations. So we do all sorts of different science demos in front of an audience. So I got to do a lot of public speaking while I was in high school, and entertaining in front of groups, as well as, learning this one-on-one communication and explaining complicated technical subjects to non-technical audiences. And I think of everything I've sort of learned, that's one of the most valuable skills that I ever picked up. So I went off to college to study physics. I went to University of California, Santa Cruz. So I became a banana slug, and that was perfect for me. I was not going to go any place with sports because that was something that was, completely foreign to me. In fact, I studied fencing there and was in the on-campus apartments my freshman year, and living next door was Barb, and she was a sophomore, but I've always been, aspirational. So we started dating that freshman year, and have been together ever since. We did fencing together up there. We had an amazing fencing instructor, French guy named Delmar Calvert, trained in the French Foreign Legion, very dashing. Then graduated, degree in physics, and decided to continue on because that was the plan. Barb and I applied to like 20 grad schools, and the only place we ended up overlapping was back in San Diego. So back to San Diego we go. And Barb pursued her PhD in sociology, first a MA at San Diego State, and then a PhD at Riverside. And I was working on my PhD in astrophysics at UCSD. They talked me into doing astrophysics because this was just as the Hubble was coming online, and just as the Keck 10-meter telescopes in Hawaii were coming online, right? They just come out. And my advisor said, basically, when a new generation of telescopes comes out, you're gonna discover new stuff. It's an amazing time. It's the perfect time. You should come be an experimental astrophysicist. And that sounded like a good argument to me. So I joined that group and started looking at structure formation in the early universe. So trying to understand what was going on. We're looking about 90% of the way back, using even more distant quasars as backlight for gas clouds between us and them, and trying to understand. Quick diversion, Big Bang, everything's really small and really, really hot. Universe expands and cools off. And so at the beginning, everything is ionized, right? All the electrons have been ripped off all the atoms. As it expands, it cools, and everything goes neutral. And the electrons pair up with their atoms like they do normally. And then later you get some stars and you get some galaxies and you get other things evolving, and the light from them heats up the diffuse gas in the universe, and basically the whole universe ionizes again and gets super hot. So the gas out in the galaxy is like 1,000,000 degrees. It's super, super hot out there. Also almost a vacuum, but the particles are very hot, moving fast and ionized. And the question is why? So it turned out that when you look back and see what you can see, there isn't a lot of things there that could have reionized it at the times we see it reionizing. And so I was trying to reverse engineer, okay, we know it's reionized, what was reionizing it? So we were using the Hubble and the Keck and doing spectroscopy to try to understand what could have been doing it. Unfortunately, it turned out the Hubble wasn't really big enough and didn't have enough sensitivity. Even with 100-hour exposure, really, you could barely tell what was going on at one end of the spectrum. But in the meantime, I was getting interested in the internet and cryptography, because this was 91, 92. As a physicist in San Diego, I'm directly on the internet. I'm wired straight into the San Diego Supercomputer Center. I was setting up websites for our astronomy group when there were only a couple hundred websites in existence, because remember, the World Wide Web, I believe, was invented in '91. So this just started to exist. And the US government had this interesting idea about trying to improve security. And this was part of the ongoing set of crypto wars. The FBI and they came to the Congress and said, you know what, we think everyone needs to be encrypting things. We need more security, hackers are a problem. But we're really worried about the bad guys encrypting things that we can't read. So what we want to do is have everyone put a chip in their computer that does the encryption really well, but we keep a copy of all the keys just in case. And a lot of security people thought that this was an extremely bad idea for lots of reasons, like the SolarWinds hack, right? No one has any belief that they're going to be able to secure those keys, and those keys are going to be so valuable. So I got involved with a group of crypto anarchists called the cypherpunks, building open source privacy and security software, cryptography software, and giving it away. Because of course, this chip is only going to work to prevent the bad guys from communicating securely if you then outlaw the good crypto, right? So everyone kind of saw the writing on the wall that that was going to be the next step. So we were furiously developing and giving away open source cryptography and security software so that it would be a fait accompli, and ideally then the law wouldn't pass because they couldn't actually achieve their goals. And it did eventually fail, in fact. But I got really interested in this, and I ended up building a next generation system for doing anonymous email called Mixmaster, and that was taking off. And there were tens of thousands of users and dozens of people running it. And I was interviewed in the papers. And that was more interesting than my astrophysics, which was sort of not going anywhere because the telescope wasn't good enough and was getting frustrating. And so I decided, I think I want to start a company around this. And the window of opportunity for sort of a clueless astronomer to start a company and be successful was probably closing. So in '95, I put my PhD on what I thought was going to be temporary, but turned out to be permanent hold. I had this idea I was going to finish my PhD in my spare time while I was starting a company, and that was not the brightest idea in the world. I started a company called Anonymizer, doing internet privacy for consumers, and built that out. We got up to about 100,000 paying subscribers. At one point, we had 1 million free users, but that sort of started to top out. A lot of people say they want privacy, but they're not really willing to pay for it. And so we weren't able to continue to grow. We had the sort of the paranoid people and the early adopters and the technical folks who liked it, but we weren't able to cross that chasm to the next level. But after 9/11, we were asking ourselves, what could we do to contribute to that situation? And as it turned out, we had a lot of contacts in the FBI because we got subpoenaed all the time because we had people doing bad things through our anonymous web service, unsurprisingly. So we reached out to them and said, hey, look, the FBI set up this thing for giving anonymous tips about terrorism. We'd like to create a more secure version of that because yours is in the clear and it's FBI.gov. Anyone with real information is probably going to get killed for going there. So let us do this for you for free. And we set up a terrorist tip site that processed about 25,000 tips over the next 6 months and kind of helped move us in their minds from the bad guy camp into the good guy camp, like they now understood what we were about. And I was able to pivot them and a visit from some CIA people that wanted me to become an informant for them, which I chose not to do, but suggested that they really needed to be able to be anonymous themselves on the internet. And had they ever thought about how they were going to do that? Neither the FBI or the CIA really had good answers to that question. And so we were able to get into those organizations and get a toe in the door to start providing tools for them to do undercover capabilities. So if you want to go and infiltrate a group of jihadis or child pornographers or drug dealers or whatever who are also moving online, you can't look like you're sitting in Washington, D.C. in the Hoover building, right? That's going to sort of end things. You need to look like you're sitting in Medellin or in Bangalore or in Moscow or Hong Kong or what, you know, and have all of that stand up to scrutiny, because some of your opponents are pretty smart and they're looking for people infiltrating them. So we, after 9/11 and after developing these connections, we started to pivot the company towards that. And within a couple of years, that was 98% of our business, and we were growing explosively. But I realized I didn't have the relationships and knowledge and insight to really grow the company from there. So we decided to sell the company. We went out, didn't get the numbers we wanted, proved out another couple of years of growth, and eventually in 2008 sold to a small systems integrator in the DC area. Entirely, all the senior management was former CIA operations people. And so they had been there, they were our customers and were recently retired. Fascinating people to work with. Dinner parties were amazing. You just learned to shut up because they got way better stories than you do. Working with the government, I also had the opportunity to get a security clearance. And as a former cypherpunk crypto privacy fanatic, going through the background checks and more particularly the lifestyle polygraph was an interesting experience. So part of the security process is they actually strap you to a lie detector and ask you about literally anything in your life. And it's about an 8-hour process. And it's quite a proctology exam. It's an interesting thing, but they were perfectly happy with my answers. So I had the top level security clearance because we had to talk to customers about what we were doing, right? They really had to share intimate details of what they were working on so we could provide solutions that were appropriate and relevant to that. I also had incredibly lucky timing with selling the company. It was an all cash transaction that closed, I think it was 2 weeks before the Lehman collapse in 2008. So it's like, done, out. Although fortunately having the government as our primary customer, we were kind of insulated from a lot of the fallout from that. I got to lean on a lot of skills because the people in the company were all spooks. They don't like talking to the media. They don't like talking publicly. And so I ended up becoming the face of the company after the acquisition. So I did all our public speaking. I did our videos. And in a strange way, as you know, a former scientist, engineering person, I actually ended up with the marketing department reporting to me for the last several years that I was there, because I can communicate about these complicated things. Shortly after we were acquired, I moved to Healdsburg in 2012. And the first thing I did was join Rotary and the North Bay Angels to connect with people and to get involved in the community. Built the house I'm in now over, we bought the property before, so we built this house over 2012 to 2014. And I don't know how many of you were aware of it at that time, because I was sort of juggling a lot of balls, but in the middle of that, Barb went through her brain surgeries. I'm not sure if you recall this, but New Year's Eve, 12 to 13, Barb had a grand mal seizure, which she'd never had before, and they took her to the hospital and did a scan, and she had a baseball-sized tumor in her brain, which was not what you're looking to hear, but unfortunately it wasn't a stroke or something, and it also turned out not to be cancer. It was what they call a dermoid cyst, and was totally removable. And so over the course of a couple of pretty heavy-duty brain surgeries, but ones that didn't require cutting into the brain, they were able to get at this and get it out and drain it and remove the material. And the interesting thing is that Barb, during this whole previous couple of years, she had been writing, working on her books, but that had kind of slowed down, and she'd kind of become more anxious and more introverted and less able to write, and her writing was really not happening at all. And that turns out to have been a result of the pressure on her brain from the surgery, because post-surgery, all of that stuff reset. And I sort of got the Barb back that I had known when we were in college. And you know, once she was recovering, her writing exploded, creativity, all that stuff took off. So that was kind of amazing. And so latest developments is I actually left the company that bought my company at the beginning of this year. I'd been working with startups. I've been, you know, with the North Bay Angels. I'm on the board there. I'm just recently actually became chair of the selection committee. So it's my job to be picking the companies that get to pitch to get that angel investment. And this has been something that I'm more and more passionate about. So January 1st, I left that company. I'm now a strategic advisor to them on a very, very, very part-time basis, mostly working with them on some of the patents. But I launched a website called Feel the Boot, focused on providing advice for startups and helping them do fundraising and strategy and you know, helping first-time founders wrap their heads around all of the things that they need to somehow instantly master and climb this vertical learning curve. And with COVID, this has all gone virtual. So it used to be there were a lot of in-person meetups and pitch meetings in San Francisco that I wouldn't go to because it's a pain and I'm an introvert. Now all of it's on Zoom. So I'm on these all over the place. Like I do office hours Tuesdays and Thursdays for startups, and each day I might talk to, say, 6 different companies. And you know, one of them's in San Francisco, one's in Toronto, one's in London, one's in Cape Town, one's in Sydney, and you know, another's in Hong Kong, and which is super cool meeting all. And these are really fun people, because people who start companies are highly motivated, interesting, go-getter kinds of folks, and so getting to work with them is a real pleasure. And so that's what I'm doing now is focusing on helping these companies grow, get investment, and investing myself in some of them. And you're muted, the phrase of 2020.
My comment is still waters run deep and deeper every time we talk to you, every time you talk to us. Thank you, Lance. Does anyone have any questions about Lance's ho-hum background? Looks like Dan is eating Kirkland peanuts or something.
I am. My breakfasts are champions. So do you still have your clearance, Lance, or did they pull that?
I actually finally let that go. So that lapsed just a couple of years ago, largely because I wasn't meeting with the customers face to face. It was more on the public facing and technology side of things. So yeah, I probably held it from 2006 to 2014, I think, 15, something like that. It's a pain in the ass because you've got to you can't travel internationally without, reporting it and filling out a bunch of paperwork, and you got to go in and get a new polygraph every few years. And so.
My daughter just went to the Coast Guard headquarters because she's getting another level of security clearance. And so she's constrained by those travel restrictions. Well,
it was funny. Barb's dad worked for Rockwell and was a senior electrician on the space shuttle. And he had all sorts of kind of funny rules. And her mom was a nurse and had some of her home healthcare patients were Iranian, and he would never go meet with them. And it was always kind of weird, the excuses he'd come up with. And once I finally got my security clearances and understood what the restrictions were at each kind of different level, I knew that absolutely he, in fact, had a top secret secure compartmented intelligence level clearance, but it wouldn't ever actually say that. But it was kind of funny. Easy to reverse engineer.
Well, thank you for jumping in to help me with today's entertainment. It's always entertaining to hear from you. And Archie, thank you for your ideas and the extra effort in going out and taking pictures of our homes. That was fun. I wanted to comment on the Christmas attire. I see that Larry has, for the second week in a row, worn his fabulous sweater. Thank you. Doug, looks like you made a very sweet hat. Diane, she's got her little elf thing going there. Archie, I just wanted to comment on the Christmas tree. That is relevant. And I'm going to donate a little bit of money in each of your names to our Polio Plus project for your help in making this a Merry Christmas. So thank you for doing that. Book lists. I sent everybody out about 8 of our reading lists that we've been working on since COVID. So I really appreciate everybody contributing to that. If anyone has not submitted their reading lists, send me some, because I find it really interesting what other people are reading, and I'm always looking for good books. When I run out of oh, Lance, you, all right, Lance, you'll get one too. Lance has his technological Santa hat on.
It's one of the built-in filters in Zoom.
So, all right, you win. Then I wanted to also mention that next week is dark because we have a board meeting, but the week after, the first week in January, another one of Edward's interesting guest speakers is a woman from OLLI, which stands for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. And I know that American Association of University Women have presented that program to the community over the years. And so that should be very interesting. Because I know.
Also, Nancy, Leslie Brudico's local. She's Carl Milfight's neighbor.
Oh.
I mean, Leslie lives off of T Court, and they have Brudico Winery, and, you know, I do work for them, and they've been friends for years, and the family's been friends for years. You know, that OLLI program's really good for shut-ins, or because they now do Zoom, but for the elderly, you know, that are home and they don't have anything to do. And, you know, for less than a cost of a movie, they can go and see, you know, a speaker, you know, used to be at the Villa.
Right.
Anyway, that's enough on that, but it's a good program.
Yeah. So thank you for, so Leslie is the guest speaker.
Yeah, Leslie Brudico speaking. She's been in charge of the program, I don't know, for 5-6 years through Sonoma State.
Great. Cool. We will look forward to that. And Lance, yes, your head is pulsing. What's going on in that brain? It's cooking.
I don't know.
All right. So
not sure what Zoom is thinking.
I will close the meeting, and if Lance, why don't you put us into our chat groups?
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Mr. Caterpillar is going away for the
Merry
winter.
Christmas.